Welcome to Tech Talk Tuesday. I'm your host, Pratik Patel, a technology consultant with Ingram Micro. And my job today is to help you uncomplicate AI. Let me say it this way, AI for good. And especially not like the AI in that new movie, Mission Impossible. Basically the hero faces off against an AI called the Entity, which is a powerful self-learning AI that can manipulate major defense, communication, and financial networks. It's a movie, so yeah, bear with me on that. But for me, when I saw the film, what I really was really fascinated with was how they were actually technically explaining, basically describing what AI was, how it actually worked, and how it was able to do a lot of the things it was able to do in the film. So definitely, hopefully, no spoiler alert there, but definitely a great new way to think about AI. So if you haven't seen it, definitely check it out. So today we have a special webinar dedicated to one of the most transformative technologies of our time, artificial intelligence. And to do that, we are on with Ingram Micro and Intel to talk about a variety of topics that are top of mind for every customer. Today, we'll be exploring the latest programs and promotions you should be aware of. Then we'll discuss supply chain security. And finally, we'll close it out with a conversation about AI. First off, we have Nathan Moich with Ingram Micro. Hi, Nate. How are you doing?
Hey, Pratik. Happy to be on here today. So my day-to-day is helping out partners. I see a lot of familiar names in there, so I appreciate you hopping on, but pretty much getting you started with partner program, refreshing you on current partner portfolio, all the current promotions here at Ingram Micro, and just letting you know about all our great offers we have in market. Happy to be on.
Great.
Thanks, Pratik.
Yeah, great to hear. So let's just kick it off. So for the audience, could you tell us about what some of the main, the most valuable Lenovo and Ingram Micro programs and even promotions, or even any other offers that you have that are other partners are already leveraging today?
Yeah, absolutely. We've had our booster program in market for about a year or two. So it's an Ingram loyalty program. So we try to reward you as a partner with a lot of great incentives. So try and buy lunch and learns, a lot of meetings like this. I'm getting hungry, so looking forward to that Grubhub. But yeah, things like that. Those are some of our biggest things. And then we have promotions with our IDG or our client team as well. So we try to incorporate both of those, market development funds as well. If you have an idea, shoot it over to us. More than happy to take a look and see where we can help you out. So that booster program 2.0, it's launched. It also entitles you to all up Ingram tech support, not just with Lenovo. So certainly encourage you to take a look if you or your team has had some turnover. Maybe you're not familiar if you signed up. I can certainly take care of that for you.
Perfect. I put the booster program a link in the chat. So if you haven't registered already, definitely do so. So Nate, could you actually talk about a little bit more about the different programs or that we have going on? Because I know there's super SKUs and other things out there that are very popular right now, and something that we all the partners should know about.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll kick it off with Lenovo as a whole. They launched SMB Express a couple of months ago. Now it's the artist formerly known as SMB Express. Now it's just Express. So really what that is our technicians, or if you're savvy enough to go on the portal, when you go to configure a server, it will only show readily available components. Lenovo has been really strong throughout COVID and through now. So they're averaging a 14-day order to the ship offering for a majority of models. So choose your processor, your drives, and 99% of the time you're going to get what you want, barring anything that's maybe a difficult model. So that's a program. We will build everything out for you. Quote. We will deal reg it as well, which I want to get into. There's no longer a revenue requirement. People think there's still that hefty $50,000 MSRP requirement. Nope, that's been gone for a while now. So we can do the deal reg process for you, get that off your plate. I understand that you as a partner, you're managing multiple portals a day, and it gets a little time consuming and hectic. So that's one of the biggest value adds we offer. We will spec everything out for you, even if it's from another vendor. We'll quote it out for you, get a deal reg, lock in that pricing for you for at least 90 days. And then you have an advantage over other partners that might be competing. So that is something that comes along, and you would get approval 99% of the time, same day. And then tower inventory. You have a small dental office or a little medical office. I know towers have seen quite a bit of growth. So that's something we did a big purchase with our leadership. We have a bunch of them in Ingram warehouses. So if you need something,
Thank you.
certainly get that taken care of
Have a nice
and
day.
quote it out. I think we got some background audio, so just check on that. Just please mute your mics if possible. And then Lenovo super SKUs. So Lenovo has a bunch of heavily discounted SR630s, and we also have a couple of the DE4000s. So those are sitting right now in our Ingram warehouses. They include hard drive, RAID card, backplane, power supplies, SSD. So really substantial savings there, ready to ship out and go. And then Lenovo as a whole, it's probably the biggest misconception with partners. We're just servers, like I touched on, storage, software,
I actually do
Microsoft,
not.
Rock, Veeam, VMware, all that stuff. So quite a bit in the portfolio, really aggressive pricing, quite a bit in stock at Ingram right now. And we have a team dedicated here in Buffalo, myself, a couple of other market development members, and our config team. So once again, we can spec out everything for you, even if it's a competitive situation, you just want to dip your toes in Lenovo, bring it our way. We're happy to help you out. That's all I have for T. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Excellent, Nate. Just a quick question on for the Express program. What is the typical turnaround time we've seen for deliveries?
Yeah, great question. So Lenovo's still been holding steady at 14 days. So once again, if you and your team are savvy enough to go on the portal, everything will show up as green and readily available when you go to spec it out. And then if you want our team to spec it out, we'll do it here for you. So you can do expert mode, but it will lead with guided express mode, which will, once again, 14-day average delivery time. So just check with us. But yeah, there's quite a bit of in the portfolio that's ready to go.
Perfect. Yep. Thank you, Nate. So everyone in the audience, if you have a specific question for Nate, definitely put in the chat. He's going to be online right now, so definitely he can respond to any questions you have about any of the programs, or if you're just looking to see what's on the horizon, he can definitely help with all of that. Thank you, Nate. Next up, we have Rachel Mundley, a sales development manager with Intel. Hi, Rachel. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you doing today?
Good. I'm doing great. Thank you. Rachel, if you would, please tell us about yourself.
Sure. So guys, I am located in South Carolina. I've been at Intel for about 11 years. I work at Intel. I'm currently on the Lenovo account team, so I only focus on Lenovo, and I am in charge of all SMB and channel for all of North America. I have a heavy focus on client. I do cover server, which is what this call is about. And I've actually become a lead on transparent supply chain for the Lenovo account team, which is why Pratik brought me on today. So some of the content you'll see spans from both client to server because we offer it across both platforms. So just if some of the slides seem client-centric, that's the reason for it, but it applies to both sides of the business.
Perfect. Yep. Security is security for me. So that works out great.
Yep.
Thank you, Rachel. Let's dive right in. As organizations prioritize supply chain trust, Intel has developed a transparent supply chain services in partnership with Lenovo. Can you help us understand what that is?
Sure. And I actually have a couple of slides. I feel like sometimes I'm very visual as a learner, so this will help articulate why Intel developed TSC and what it is. So Intel products, we want to aim to be the most secure in the industry. So first I want to walk through just why did we develop this, and then more on the what is it, which I think these will articulate. Let me share and then put it in presentation mode. And then let me know when you guys can see my Pratik. Can you see?
Yep, we're good here.
Okay, so I want to start with just a slide that shows a couple articles and surveys on it. So if we start with the why, supply chain is, I would say supply chain security specifically is top of mind. So whether you're asking IT or you look at market research or even you follow the news, you can see I have little news articles on here. Supply chain cyber attacks to quadruple. You see cybersecurity of supply chain as the #1 IT concern. That's for both short-term and long-term. You see an executive order on America's supply chains. A lot of this came about from COVID, but it's become just a growing topic of concern across all compute devices, almost edge to cloud, right? Server all the way over to the client. So like I said, this has a visual of a PC, but it applies on the server side as well. So the other part of the why is security threats are really evolving. So historically, we've had threats like ransomware, cryptojacking, and a lot of other malware that is attacking applications or an operating system. And we have traditional tools that have always focused on protecting those areas. But the challenge is that there's all these emerging threats. Some of them became more apparent to a lot of us during COVID, and I'll talk more about that later on. But they're trying to attack in different areas. So the BIOS, firmware, even CPU and hardware. So with these emerging threats, we need to make sure that we can secure the layers of a server or a client device throughout the entire life cycle, and that we're looking at the firmware attacks and also any sort of supply chain corruption that has started to happen. So that's kind of the why, is the landscape is evolving and Intel wants to be ahead of it. And like I said, transparent supply chain, or TSC, as I'm going to call it, because we love our acronyms at Intel and it's just quicker to call it TSC. But I want to walk through now, that's kind of why, but then what is it? So Lenovo and Intel, we work together on everything. And one of the views that we took together was, we need to make sure security is looking at the entire life cycle of a server and a client. So you can't just think about that one, you see that one square that talks about operate. That's where a lot of people focus. How do we maintain and update something while it's deployed? But it starts much earlier than that, and it even goes past that to retiring, right? So when you are building a PC, you have to think about the security aspect, transferring the PC, operating, and then retiring. So in the black, you can see each of the programs that Lenovo has. In blue, you can see the complementary ones that Intel has created and how they work together. So the one that we're going to focus on is in that transfer, right? So Intel Transparent Supply Chain fits into that bucket. So it's all about how do we prevent and detect any tampering that might happen during transit. So I think the next slide visually kind of shows it. So it all starts at the beginning, right? I don't know if anyone watched Intel Innovation, we had this event and we had our CEO on stage talking, and then we had our CTO, Greg Lavender. He brought up transparent supply chain, and he actually brought up what we currently have and then our longer term strategy to even go earlier in the process and later. But I'm going to cover what's in market today. So in market today, we have component sourcing, which already that kind of starts it. Where transparent supply chain comes in is, okay, we're at the factory, wherever that is around the world, and we're building a device, every single component that goes into it. So once the device is built, it switches so many different hands in distribution. So you may build a device and then it might go on a plane, it might go on a boat, traveling through different countries, in oceans, wherever, over the seas. And then it might go through customs, it might go to a distributor, it might go to a VAR, it might go to an NSP until it gets to the end customer, it gets provisioned, and then you get it, and then you think about the operating and updating. So this whole process where you're changing tons of hands, what is happening during that time? There's a lot of opportunity for tampering to happen. And if you guys remember during COVID, there were those shortage for drivers. So you would have ships just sitting there, not able to transfer any of the product that they had to a driver to then get it to the destination because of the shortage. So you just open up vulnerabilities and the ability to tamper with something, whether that's stealing an aspect of the PC, putting malware on there, or tampering in any way with it, right? So we want to make sure when we receive our devices, we know that it is secure and it is safe, and we have transparency in every aspect of the supply chain. So what we order is what we receive. Long answer. Hopefully that answered it for you. All my answers won't be that long, Pratik.
No, that was perfect. So it almost sounds like a birth certificate for the product. So that I love that, you know.
Yeah,
So
I have a similar comparison. I always say it's almost like a fingerprint. So you almost take a fingerprint of something, and because it's uniquely you, or the component of the PC or the server is uniquely that one. And then once you get to the end state, can you compare the two? And is it the same fingerprint that you're getting, or a passport, or I like that as well, kind of a birth certificate. So all good visuals to remember.
perfect. Yeah. You know, so since this is a security conversation, so the question really comes up, you know, what data does the Intel TSC capture? and why is that really relevant to transparency?
Yeah, so, and I'll try not to get too technical on this, and I won't name every single thing because it captures so much. So when we think about TSC, it captures information on the components used in the manufacturing of a product. So that's the most basic, right? The component information can include anything from an MPN, which is a manufacturing part number, a component batch number, serial number, lot number, all of those. So that's one aspect. In addition, the component sourcing information is also collected. So the supplier or distributor or an OEM that the components were purchased from. So when you think of both of those, it gives it two levels of traceability and transparency. So you have level 1 and you have level 2. So level 1, so both of those we're going to call as-built data, right? So both of this, so in level 1, we have these reports that contain the component information, and all that component information is collected through the factory shop floor. And they have this control system that's happening in real time. So it's during assembly and manufacturing. So it's collecting all that. Level 2 is also an as-built data report. This includes component sourcing information, and all of it is captured by inventory control, ERP software. So both the level 2 is rolled up with the level 1 component information, and both of them basically combine to have this as-built report, and it's generated for every unique product. So if we, I won't go through the exhaustive list, but if we think about some of the things that are collected in the as-built data report, it would be like a serial number. So we're all familiar with that. Every system, every board has to have a unique serial number assigned. There's also factory work order numbers that the board was manufactured under. System assembly site, so you know exactly, let's say, the ODM company name of where it happened, the city, and the factory location of where that ODM manufactured your product, the build date. So that's everything from, okay, the year it was built, the month it was built, the day, the hour, the minute that this was actually built. And then they have like a real code and a date code. So that's a portion of what you get, which is a lot. The list is longer than that. But the transparent supply chain also has this collection of product data. So this is where you think of the processor. This is more what you and I were talking about. If it's like actually a fingerprint, what makes up the actual server or client device. It's not necessarily where it came from, but like what are the actual pieces and parts. So that's the processor, memory modules, network controllers, motherboard, drive information, etc. So all of this information is essentially collected through the use of this manufacturing tool. It's deployed on the factory floor, and then the output is this direct platform data file. So it also collects TPM, which you can see on this visual information, the PCR registers, TPM serial number, endorsement keys, and all of these. Each TPM has a unique serial number, and it's tied to the platform serial number. So they basically have all of this, which is called platform certificate data file. And so why is it relevant to the aspect? Basically anything around transparency. And that's because there are standards that you have to adhere to. So you can see all of these are basically government compliance supplements, right? So you see all the entities, these link to different things. You can see the description of it. But this basically is, at deployment, you have transparency. So it can match like what is the current state against the configuration at manufacturing to see, was there tampering at any point during the time that it was transferred? And then you can ensure any return product is of the same quality as the original sent to the customer. So these are just relevant standards. You can see TSC aligns to each and every one of those.
Perfect. So everyone in the audience, if you wanted to add the Intel TSC service, you can actually just go directly simply into the DCSC configurator tool under the security tab and select it there. Lenovo has made it easy to select it as part of an order. So my question to you, Rachel, is, what are the benefits of adding this feature to an order?
Yeah, as you mentioned, it could not be easier. I was so happy when I found out the change. So the historically, and I include both client and server on here, so you can see the top is kind of client. One, there's a cost on the client. There's not even a cost on server today. That is limited time, so you should take advantage. But it's in the tool. So it used to be you had to add it on an order number, specifically on CTO. The part number is added, but on the server side, you literally go through the configurator tool, and then you just click a button, and it's free for it. And so it's basically the whole idea is enterprise procurement can ensure the system and components they received is the exact one they get ordered. So you get transparency with your order, and they have these TSC verified tools, and essentially it checks all the components in the system. So it makes sure, are those the exact components that left the factory that you're expecting to receive? So it's a super easy user experience. And like we said, for a very limited time, it's free for server. It's not going to be in the next generation. So it's also something, why not take advantage? Why not make sure that your OEMs are requiring this to show you? Yeah, so that's what I would say for that one.
Perfect. Yep. Yeah. Like you said, I love free, so it makes a lot of sense. When I went to the configurator and stepped through it, fairly straightforward. There was just a box you click, and like you said, there's no cost associated with this. So that it works out even better. So definitely, partners, go out there and check it out, because I think that's definitely going to be a game changer. So along the same lines, how do these programs, or everything that you're going to discuss today, really align with Intel's overall sustainability and ESG goals?
Yeah, so if you guys remember that slide that I showed that had like build, transfer, operate, retire originally for security. So we have the same type of efforts, I would say, combined between the two companies directed towards security. So this talks a lot about like PC emissions, but a lot of emissions occur during manufacturing. And I'm not going to go through, if anyone's interested, I can go through our whole sustainability effort and how much we've reduced our water and the new packaging and plastic and waste and all of that. But one thing to take away is manufacturing accounts for most of the emissions. So since TSC, it's all around like the manufacturing process and everything at the factory. It provides you the components used in the manufacturing of a product. So all of that is about transparency. Lenovo wants to be super transparent in the way it does business. And so if you have transparency in component information, it can allow a customer to say, okay, I can then determine, are these components from companies that are sustainable? Do they meet what I think is important and required? So you guys finally have this visibility to make informed decisions about what and where you're buying, where you're purchasing, and to see if you're happy with it. Because the component supplier or the distributor or the OEM that the components were purchased give the two levels of traceability that I talked about. So, and you have that traceability and the transparency in the supply chain. So for sourcing of a component through the supply chain, you can say, okay, is this also sustainable? As the component manufacturer, you can check them. Are they ESG compliant? And do their components come from socially responsible sourcing without the use of forced labor? You know that Intel and Lenovo do. We have all of that very transparently laid out. And now you can see where we're getting all the other parts that make up the PC to see if they do as well.
Yep. Yeah. Thank you for that. Sustainability is important. I know many of my channel partners always are asking about sustainability, or at least what the different services that are offered. And I definitely know Lenovo has a carbon offset and other services that are available. So if you need more information about that, definitely reach out to me. I can definitely help you point you in the right direction. So finally, Rachel, if I can ask you to leave my channel partners with one thing, what will your call to action be?
Yeah, I think we kind of mentioned it before on this slide. So any Lenovo CTO server platforms today are free with TSC. So it's not going to be subsidized for long. We're subsidizing the cost of this because there is a lot of cost around it. Dell and HP do not have Intel's transparent supply chain. You're going to hear a lot of thought about the heritage and Lenovo being a Chinese company, but the truth is they're a global company and they've worked really hard to partner with Intel on being the most secure and transparent in the way that they do business, especially in their supply chain. So my call to action would be take advantage, because it's not going to be free for long. See if you like it, and then also look at it on the client side. But you should be asking any of your OEMs to make sure that they can show you a way that you can track the if there's tampering or anything done with your product. So I would really encourage you to ask your, whether it's a CAM or whoever you're talking with, to add it to your order and to understand more about that, and to get the support you need to include it with all your purchases. And then if you like it, once they start to go to this next generation that our CTO talked about, because there's a long roadmap around transparent supply chain because we see the need for it, you're already kind of future-proofing yourself for it. And you started from the very beginning to know what's happened with your product. So that's my recommendation. Take advantage. Lenovo's the only one that's doing it for you guys today. So that's all I got, Pratik.
Perfect. Yeah. Thank you, Rachel. I'm really glad you pointed out the fact that, Lenovo actually owns their own supply chain. And I think that's a game-changing aspect to Lenovo. Plus this additional security service that's offered, even more amazing. Thank you. Thank you for helping my partners understand this.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Next, we have Peter T., a data center and cloud specialist with Intel. Peter, thank you for joining us again. How are you doing?
Hey, Pratik, I'm doing great. Thanks so much for having me here. Great to work with you again. Rachel, I love that build to retire story for the transparent supply chain. So many customers are asking for that. It's such an important topic. So, but what are we going to talk about next, Pratik?
Yeah. So today, right now, we're just going to talk about our favorite topic, AI, artificial intelligence. That seems to be the, top of mind activity, buzzword, or whatever you want to call it. Everybody is talking about it. So, what I would ask is, could you kind of set the stage and give us an overview of how AI and Intel are really, intersecting in that technology landscape, and really what potential opportunities or challenges does that really represent?
Yeah, Pratik, I love the question. And this is such an exciting market right now. There's so many opportunities. It's a giant market. It's, I think one of the toughest challenges is narrowing down. We'll talk a little bit about that later on. But let me kind of first talk about what Intel's doing in this space. And first of all, hello, everybody. I'm Peter T. with Intel, 27 plus years with Intel, talking to you from my home office in Newport, Rhode Island. I'm responsible for all the Intel-based server business that goes through Ingram, as well as our AI messaging and strategy together. So AI is just a awesome topic to be having these days, albeit a little confusing. Pratik, I like to start off with AI is not new to Intel by any means. We've been building features into our hardware for quite a few generations now. We're not going to go into all the detail today. We don't have time on that. I don't know if we've always done a good job of explaining where those features were. We are certainly talking them up more, and we're really at the beginning of that. Our CEO Pat Gelsinger says every product that we build, every business unit has to answer to how does it do a better job for customers that are deploying AI solutions. AI is a workload. It's a workload that crosses all other workloads. And it's an area that our customers want to embrace to be more competitive, get products to market quicker, better customer satisfaction, whatever it may be. Lots of different parts. I think the second part to this is it's all about the ecosystem. So I can talk about a hardware feature that we put into, 4th Gen Xeon as an example. But if the ecosystem is not seeing that, it's just a piece of hardware, right? So in the AI space, we have the largest breadth of ecosystem offerings. It's mostly based on open source, not completely. We love the open source space because open source develops quickly, stays up with the market, and there tends to be a little cost savings in that space as well. So We base a lot of it on open systems. So my slide's still showing? It seems like the screen just
No,
changed.
I'm not seeing the slide anymore.
All right, something, I felt like something dropped off there. Bear with me for a second. Not sure why that happened. So while I'm bringing up the slide, this importance of the ecosystem, and in this case, we're talking about, the tools and kits, the frameworks, the programming models, and of course, the OS and hypervisor support. And by working with the open source community, the TensorFlows, the PyTorches, the OpenVinos of this industry, we're able to work with them to tune, scale, and optimize to take advantage of those new hardware features that we put in. Otherwise, again, they're just hardware. I think ultimately, if there's one takeaway from hearing about Intel in the AI space, it's we're doing something called democratizing AI. And by that, we mean we want to lower the cost of AI. And every time we lower that entry point, it goes from enterprise to mid-tier to SMB. And we're seeing that happen. So the more we can do open source, the more we can do on the CPU. All of this helps bring down that cost. That opens up the total available market to everybody on this call. We think that's super important, democratizing AI. I hope that helps, Pratik.
Oh, definitely. So that kind of leads me to my next question. How has Intel been able to be at the forefront of designing hardware tailored for AI applications? And what unique advantages does that really offer to, like developers, end users, businesses, clients?
Yeah, I think it comes down to, first of all, kind of, what I call perception and reality in this market. There's this idea that AI equals NVIDIA. And look, NVIDIA makes some great products. They make some great GPUs. There's a time and a place for a GPU. But we've got to remember, GPUs are by themselves expensive hardware. They require custom coding. They put off additional thermals. And then there's an electric demand on the server, which all adds to the total cost of ownership. And again, there's a time and a place. Intel is getting into the GPU business. We've got a really interesting line. Our Flex and Max series are well supported by the Lenovo data center server side of the business. We're really excited about that. But our goal is do more on the CPU, right? Already today, 70% of inferencing, so that's you've deployed that AI application out to the employee or the partner or the customer. So the inferencing is actually putting that application out there, if you will. 70+% of that is today already happening on an Intel Xeon CPU. And that's because we're building in features that are making the CPU stronger for AI. Started this a few generations ago. Our latest generation, we're now bringing in more ML, machine learning capabilities. We'll talk a little bit more about that in just a bit. But on the GPU side, there's a time and a place. We're seeing some really phenomenal numbers, like Hugging Face is a great example, a place that we didn't really play in 3 years ago. Now we've got some offerings there, and we're actually, in some cases outperforming by, 150% over, an NVIDIA A100 and 40% over their big power leader, the H100. So this market is really shifting. Not always a GPU needed. We can try to do more on the CPU and lower the cost. And where a GPU is needed, we're getting into that business as well. I hope that helps.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, I love that CPU versus GPU conversation. Perfect. So, for my technical professionals that are on the call, Peter, can you elaborate on how Intel's latest, AI data-driven, hardware solutions really address that, scalability and performance, especially in that high demand, resource-intensive applications?
Yeah, so there's a lot of answers to this, and today's just kind of a primer, but we'll get into it a little bit. So we talked about the importance of the ecosystem. Now we're going to talk a little bit about the hardware features. So this is where Intel's innovating, and this is where we're innovating ahead of our competition. And this innovation is really paying off. Here's a great example. earlier this year, we announced our 4th generation Xeon Scalable processor family. Well received, lots of choices from the Lenovo server team. We realized that certain workloads were putting too much pressure on the individual cores. So if you just add more cores, you had a diminishing rate of return. And adding cores increases the software cost in a lot of cases because so much software today is based on the core. So our engineers said, we need to make those cores more efficient. So we need to do different things. We need to build unique accelerators that offload some work, okay? We're not going to go through all 5 of those unique accelerators today. We're going to talk about one of them, which is designed for AI. This is Intel AMX, Advanced Matrix Extensions. All I need to think about is AI on steroids, right? Our previous generation had some unique AI features. This new feature builds on that and dramatically increases the performance levels that we're driving now. We're seeing, not a 50% increase in performance like you would see with the next generation CPU. When you take advantage of these advanced matrix extensions that are built into every core, specifically for AI, we see a 300, 700, 800% increase in performance on that ecosystem that I talked about in the previous slide, because we worked with them to tune, scale, and optimize to see these instructions. It's fantastic what's going on in this space. And what that means is, especially in AI, we're dramatically outperforming what our competitors are doing by just adding more CPUs. And again, in some cases, we're also allowing that work not to need a GPU, again, a time and a place, but if we can do more of it natively on the CPU, we further lower that cost. So great example on the server side. I don't have a slide for it, but our Ethernet technology has value add for AI. And I do want to talk about the client space because AI is going to be very impactful in the client, and it's already begun. Again, we've had features in our client CPUs for a couple of years now. I don't think we've done a good job of talking about them, but if you've had, the last 2 generations of our laptop and desktop CPUs, mid-range and high-end, you've got better blurred backgrounds, better noise cancellation on team calls like this. So you've been using AI most likely without even knowing it. What's neat about the client space is that all the I don't want to say all, but most of the productivity software is already building in AI features that you're going to be able to take advantage of. Adobe has over 40 AI features in their client software today. That's only going to increase over time. Look at Copilot from Microsoft. So the client space is cool because mainstream productivity software is embracing AI. You don't have to custom build for that, but you want to make sure you have the right hardware. I know today's really focused on server, but I want to show that our AI innovation is not just in the server place. Meteor Lake comes out very soon. By the end of Q1, partners on this call will be able to sell this. This is our latest laptop CPU with not just a CPU, but a built-in to the same piece of silicon GPU and built into the same piece of silicon an NPU, a neural processor unit. We balance off those. AI doesn't all just run on the NPU. It could be broken up over the CPU, the GPU, and the NPU. We got new acronyms, like Rachel said, and we love it in this industry. But the key is this is all built into the CPU with the lowest latency possible, not like our competition who's got that off down on the system board. And the software industry is in such great support of this. And the bottom line is, at the same time, we're dramatically increasing the battery life by finding ways to be more efficient to run AI on the client. So we covered a lot there. Main takeaway is AI computes can happen in many different places. Your clients need to be prepared for how fast that's happening with productivity software. And then we talked about the server market and the unique features that we're bringing in. And this is just the beginning.
Right. Yeah. Love the Lenovo 360 conversation there. You put in data center and client and everything together. So that was perfect. So, the next question really comes to, you kind of spoke about the ecosystem several times already. So could you speak to Intel's partnership with Lenovo in the AI space and how does it really benefit my channel partners, VARs, customers, their end users?
Yeah. So I think when we think about AI, we've got to realize that these aren't necessarily packaged solutions right off the shelf. And what that means is you got a team with great partners. There's no one company that's bringing the entire, solution to it. There's hardware, there's software, there's integration, and there's, in many cases, custom development work that has to happen. So we've got a great track record of teaming with Lenovo, especially on the AI space. We pulled up 3 examples of that. I thought these were kind of cross-industry, so we try to touch as many as possible. And here we've got a manufacturing example, we've got a really cool retail example, and we've got a crowd intelligence example. And I just want to point out that crowd intelligence one, that's not about identifying individual people. That's just about understanding how people move through a museum or a train station or an airport or a retail store. It's not about the individuals, but it's about the number of people and how do you manage that. Think about how quickly you want to fill up a sports arena. You want to have crowd intelligence, to know, do I need to open up additional doors, things like that. So some really cool stuff going on. I like these solution briefs because you may not go sell this exact one, but I think it helps to stimulate ideas and conversations with your customers about what's possible. So we are super excited about the co-development work that we've done, and these are just 3 of many, many examples. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. So finally, what practical advice can you give to my channel partners and VARs looking to leverage the power of AI and Intel with their customers?
Yeah. So a couple topics on this, Pratik, that I want to cover. First of all, I want to just spend a few minutes to understand that we talked about the client space. That's kind of unique, that a lot of productivity software is going to be already, they're going to do that work to make sure it's taking advantage of AI features. But if you're deploying a unique AI solution at a customer, there's really 3 aspects to it. And it's important to look at all 3 because all 3 become sales opportunities, right? So we start on the left with data, and this is data preparation. And this is probably the most overlooked part of AI. This is where a data scientist or a data analyst, or maybe it's even somebody in the IT group that manages databases and content, they're prepping the data, they're organizing the data, they're cleansing the data before it can be ingested into an AI solution. So a lot of work is going on there. Today, Intel already has a strength with Xeon-based workstations and high-end core-based desktops. So a lot of that pre-work is already happening. In many cases, that's the most time-consuming part of AI development. In the middle, we have modeling. So we typically talk about machine learning, and in some cases, a subset of that, deep learning, right? Here we have, it could be, if it's a rudimentary AI solution, it could be shared on a server. In most cases, it's a dedicated server or a cluster of servers. It may or may not have a GPU, depending on the demands on the modeling that you're actually doing, right? So that's another great market to sell into with the Lenovo server offerings. And then on the deploy, that's your inferencing. We kind of referenced that earlier. Already today, 70+% of that inferencing is taking place on a Xeon processor. That number is only growing as we add in additional features. Now, that deployment could be on a Xeon server. It could be on something smaller at the edge, maybe Atom-based. It could even be possibly core-based, depending on the workload and how much demand it's going to have and how much compute it needs. So again, these are each 3 different areas that you can sell into, and you should be aware of. It's not all down the middle, just building out and training. You got to look at either end and sell through the whole sales opportunity. So I hope that's kind of a starting point. Pratik, we can't talk about AI without talking about Gen AI, right? Generative AI is the big topic. We talk about, Chat GPT as an example, taking advantage of, generative pre-trained transformers. Super exciting. if you haven't done it, go, for free. You can go online and check out ChatGPT. It's fun to do some things with. And I'm not knocking ChatGPT, but it's not secure. We're not guaranteed the answer is correct. So what we expect to see, and by the way, it's very expensive to stand up. ChatGPT costs about $5 million to stand up. It's about $3 million a month to keep it running and to keep improving it. Many of our customers aren't going to be able to bring that in-house, but they may bring in a smaller version. They may bring in a smaller version just for their marketing department, where they can bring together all the marketing materials that they've created over years, have them in one place, so it's easy to pull from that, build from that, and get creative from that. They may bring it in-house to do chatbots. So there's so many different areas behind just text summarization, language translation, content generation, image, creative arts. Each of these can individually be brought in smaller, digestible versions. A lot of the text side of Gen AI is built on these large language models. If it's sub 10 billion parameters, that can actually be done on a CPU. You don't even need a GPU. So for a company with a small marketing department, that alone, they may be able to do on one server. So point is, Gen AI is not everything AI. It is the big buzzword these days. So use Gen AI to have the conversation with your customers. I think it's become a forcing function is what it's done. It's made everybody say, it's not when, it's not if I'm going to do AI, it's when. And the partners here can help their customers get there faster. One other thing that we are bringing to the market that may help in some cases is we've just launched 34 AI reference kits. I want you to think of these as blueprints, right? They're just the blueprint for how to deploy, claim document automation as an example, right? And in some cases, some of these may be put together two blueprints to give a full AI solution. These are open source. There's no cost to them. They're up on GitHub. They're not the answer to everything, but they're a great starting point and a blueprint to start that conversation with your customer. We will continue to add more of these over time because to me, the biggest challenge about AI is it's a giant topic. How do I get something down to something that's important to my customer? And we all want to sell something today, okay? And, with that said, I would really close on 2 points here. One is AI is not all robots and autonomous cars and drones and stuff like that. That stuff is all fun. It's fun to look at and so forth. But, there's a lot of mundane tasks that can be automated. And that alone may be a great starting point with a lot of our partners and customers today. I'll give you an example at inside of Intel. Well, we have a program called the Intel Inside Program. We pay for companies when they use Intel on their advertising, be it print, radio, or on television. They get a few bucks for mentioning Intel in there. We get literally thousands of requests for money, co-op dollars back every week. Our IT group, not some big AI group, no data scientists involved, stood up 3 servers, image recognition, all those requests, trained the model over 3 months, getting very high accuracy now. We find, unfortunately, fraudulent requests. Sometimes we find a duplicate request that was just done by accident. Sometimes we actually say, hey, we know based on the number of times that ad ran, you didn't ask for enough. So you actually deserve more money. Bottom line was increased customer satisfaction, quicker payouts, in some cases paid out more than they expected. And on our side, eliminating the duplicates and the fraudulent requests and automating the process saved us $20 million after the first full year it was deployed on a rather mundane bureaucratic task. So I would challenge everybody on this call to think all your customers, or most of them, probably have some type of task And that's a great starting point. And once you've started there, they have success, then you move on to the next opportunity. And the final thing is not rocket science. You know, AI is great. It's the buzzword these days. It's going to be with us for many years. I think we're only at the very beginning of it. But like every other solution you're trying to sell and deploy, your customer has to have a problem or an issue they're resolving or something they want to improve. It has to start with that. You can't just thrust AI on top of something. You have to be trying to automate something, improve something, fix something, better customer service, whatever it may be. So it always starts with that problem statement, and then you work up from there. So long-winded answer to your question, Pratik, but I hope there's, you know, we took a look at how to break down the three areas of the market. You know, we talked about Gen AI, at least as a conversation, and how some of that may come in-house, which means on-prem servers and solutions and services. And then at the end of the day, it's all about finding a business problem. So hopefully that helps.
As usual, Peter, that was terrific information. Thank you. Thank you for that.
Great. Appreciate the time.
Sanjeev Sahu, Ingram Micro's Chief Digital Officer, recently stated, AI is not new. AI is next. AI is now. And he should know. He's leading the digital transformation of Ingram Micro through the Xvantage program. To learn more about anything we discussed today, join the Lenovo Booster program. I put the link in the chat earlier. And remember, to register for November's Tech Talk, I'm actually putting the link in the chat right now. November features Rob Riveri, an amazing AI solution architect with Lenovo, who will be guiding us through AI solutions that are available right now. You don't want to miss this final webinar of the year, as he's going to be helping you understand what you need to focus on in 2024. You know, I put the link in the chat, so definitely register. I believe that's a wrap for today. Thank you so much, Nate. Thank you so much, Rachel. Thank you so much, Peter. Everyone in the audience, thank you for joining us. Make it a great day. Goodbye for now.
Thanks for having us. Bye, guys.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, thank you, everyone.
Appreciate everybody's time. Have a great day.